All right, everybody. I want to welcome you to this evening's meeting of the Taft City Council Successor Agency Joint Regular Meeting for Tuesday, September the 19th, 2017. As a courtesy to all, please silence your cell phones, put them on vibrate. Also, any writings or documents provided to a majority of the City Council regarding any item on this agenda are made available for public inspection in the lobby at Taft City Hall, 209 East Kern Street, Taft, California, during normal business hours because of Senate Bill 343. We're going to begin this evening's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by City Manager Craig Jones, followed by the invocation by the Chief of Police, Ed Whiting. If you would join me, please.
Please join me in saluting our nation's flag. Everyone will salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For those of you who wish to, please bow your head. Heavenly Father, thank you for everybody being here tonight, being here safely. Please also watch over them as they go home this evening. Please watch over our council and give them the wisdom they need to conduct the city affairs that they need to be conducted. And please watch over and bless our troops and their families, whether they are here or abroad. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mayor Knorr,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hill,
Here.
Councilmember Bryant,
Here.
Councilmember Pryor,
Here.
and Councilmember Miller.
Here.
All right, item number 1, public hearing, property assessed clean energy programs. City Manager Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Taft currently has adopted resolutions allowing for several property-assessed clean energy PACE programs to be offered within the city. On August 15th and September 5th, 2017, public hearings were held to hear from proponents and opponents of the PACE program due to concerns of surrounding the use of these types of programs by local citizens. City of Bakersfield and County of Kern have already voted to terminate their participation in the PACE program with the Kern County Taxpayers Association, Kern County Board of Supervisors, and the Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce have taken a formal position against PACE programs. In order to allow more time and consideration for the item and allow council to review documents provided at the last public hearing, direction was given to staff to schedule another public hearing. Council now needs to consider if they would like to have the city continue participation in the programs, terminate the city's participation in the programs, or if any other options are preferred.
Thanks, City Manager Jones. At this time, then, I'm going to conduct a public hearing. I'm going to open that hearing. First, anybody wish to speak in support of this, I will ask that you step forward one at a time. Do I have a list? Thank you. My goodness. So many people interested in one item. I'm flabbergasted. All right. I'm going to start with Monica Garcia. This is for.
For removal?
No, this is for the program or against removal.
Okay.
Please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Yes. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Monica Garcia, and I'm here on behalf of Y Green. My address is 2100 South McDowell Boulevard, Petaluma, California. And I am responsible for the Kern County area on behalf of Y Green. First, I want to thank you for carefully considering this item and for being thoughtful and fair in your deliberations. I attended the council meeting on September 5th and have prepared a packet in response to your questions as well as some of the comments that were made by the public, and I provided that packet to the city clerk. As to regulation and oversight, I wanted to make just a few points. State legislation enabled PACE financing with Assembly Bill 811 and Senate Bill 555. In January 2017, Assembly Bill 2693 took effect to strengthen consumer protections and include know before you owe disclosures modeled after the Truth in Lending Act. Just last week, additional legislation was passed to further regulate this industry, creating oversight by the Department of Business Oversight and establishing stricter guidelines pertaining to certified contractors and underwriting criteria. You'll also note that Y-Green contracts with the Golden State Finance Authority, a duly constituted public entity and public agency established by Government Code of the State of California. So GSFA has over 50 county members and associate members and over 150 city associate members. This is just to provide an idea of the oversight and the regulation that is happening with Y-Green as well as the PACE industry. As to consumer protections, I've provided a 20-page document within the packet that I mentioned earlier that spells out our consumer protection policies, and it includes disclosures such as interest rates, financing terms, total estimated annual payment, and other considerations that are important when property owners are choosing a financing option that best fits their needs. And just finally, as someone who's walked in your shoes and represented a city, I would ask that you consider the economic and quality of life benefits that you're creating for your constituents through the PACE mechanism. Your constituents deserve more options, not less. And with that, I'll let the next speaker speak.
All right, thank you very much. Next up is Kim Schaefer. Is Kim for or against?
We're opposing the program.
You're opposing the program? So if I could ask you to wait just a moment, I'm going to get everybody speaking in support of it, and then you will speak after that. All right, so Kim, you oppose it. Okay, Midge Jimson. Okay. Sherry Athey.
She's opposition as well.
All right. Jeannie Radzik.
Opposition.
Thank you. Brian McCarty.
Or PACE.
All right, please step forward. State your name and address for the record, please.
Well, your timing was perfect.
It was, wasn't it?
You just walked in the door and right up the podium.
I couldn't even get in right away. That was me. Creak. My name is Brian McCarty. I live at 12619 Childress Street in Bakersfield. And I have been working for the Renovate America company for the last 3 years as the Kern County account manager for the program. I can tell you that PACE has been very successful, especially here in Taft. A lot of homeowners taking advantage of energy efficiency financing. It's a property rights issue when you get right down to it. Really, the homeowner has a right to make choices, to have decisions, to have options, to be able to do what they want with their property. I have never received a phone call from a homeowner in the 3 years or a contractor that said, I have someone who cannot sell my house. So I have not had that phone call. I have not seen a homeowner come before a government body and cite specifically that the PACE assessment is the reason why they were not able to sell their home. We all know there are various reasons why properties don't sell. So at the end of the day, I would really urge all of you to keep in mind that a lot of your residents need energy efficient upgrades, whether it's solar, windows, air conditioning, especially air conditioning, folks. I mean, this summer has been very brutal, and some homeowners who might be credit challenged, they're not low income, they're middle class. They've been hit hard by the downturn with the oil industry, and in fact, a lot of home improvement companies have hired people who came from the oil fields because they've been able to have more jobs to be able to do. So that's really all I have. I believe in this program, and I know it's helped many, many people. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next up, Dustin Riley.
I have an extra one that I'll give to you afterwards for sure. I know this is a big packet, but most of this I've already sent to you in the form of emails ahead of time so that you have all of this. There are, on the left-hand side, what you will see is a statement that's a quick little two-pager that I kind of want to go through and go over the basics of PACE in general. Renovate America is the operator of the HERO program. We're the largest provider of PACE in the state of California. And PACE is legislation that was made available under AB 811 and SB 555, as Monica said earlier. PACE was created as a legislative solution so that it could help small business owners and residential property owners to be able to do upgrades for their homes to make them more energy efficient, as well as a better way of life for themselves. HERO is approved in 443 communities throughout California, and PACE is approved in 470 communities throughout California. That's 90% of California that has this program available. It's unfortunate that Kern and Bakersfield both decided to move forward with removing this program, but I say that actually is a double-sided sword, because what it did is it caused the governor's office and our state assembly to really move forward quickly with an urgency bill in this last session to make sure that they save PACE. That's how much our state of California believes in PACE as an instrument for homeowners, helping homeowners. They wanted to make sure that they stopped this madness of having cities opt out of these programs. These are great beneficial programs for homeowners and making these things available. With over 120,000 projects that we've done in California, there have been zero HERO-initiated foreclosures. Now, in the state of California, there have been 99 foreclosures, but they were by the first trust deed for someone being backed up on their mortgage payments, not for a PACE assessment. And with that being said, one of the things that you will hear from our opponents, which is the realtors, they argue that PACE hinders the ability to sell a property because the assessment needs to be paid off in order to move forward with that. The fact of the matter is that PACE is an assessment, and it's no different than a HELOC or a second that all have to be paid off at the time of a sale or a refinance. Always. So it's no different in the way of an instrument. It's just the placement on the property tax bill, and that is something that was legislated under AB 811 and made available by our state. Obviously, one of the other things I wanted to go over is that the FHA and VA have actually, as of 7/19/2016, they allow for PACE assessments to be on a property. And I have that guidance here with me. If you'd like me to give you a copy of it, I can, but you can pull it up as well. The real reason that you have to look at all the facts on this is that it's disclosure. It's making sure a homeowner understands this, making sure that a homeowner is aware of what the different implications are. Most people that are utilizing PACE, the vast majority of people utilizing PACE are using it so that they have an opportunity to finance something at a low cost, long term, at a fixed rate, so that they can pay for it long term on their property tax bill. People aren't buying solar on their house so they can flip their house tomorrow. They're doing it so they can bring down their utility bill. On the right hand side, you'll see in this packet the billing, the different utilities, SDG&E, SCE, and PG&E, and all of the rate increases that they've had over the last 40 years, 4 to 5% per year. Let's empower our homeowners to be able to make choices to make themselves more energy efficient and actually be able to take themselves a little bit off that grid. So I hope that in looking at some of these different things that are in this packet, hearing from some of the other homeowners that are here and contractors and providers, that you will make the right decision and keep this as an available option for your constituents. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Dustin. I know we're going to let everybody have their 5 minutes or less, and then we'll ask them back up. Next up is Chris Peterson.
Members of the council, my name is Chris Peterson. I reside at 4060 Paducah Drive in San Diego. And until recently, I was the director of community engagement for the HERO program. I am now the director of community engagement for Renew Financial. My role is I created a process that allowed us to reach out to homeowners that have a PACE assessment on their property when the property is actively listed, and then again when it is pending or under contract, and then again when it's sold. in order to provide a free resource, somebody that can help them understand our payoff process, make sure that everything stays in line, and help that the ease of the transaction go through. And we helped over 4,000 homeowners so far, and it's been very successful, and so much so that I'm doing it now at Renew, so that so we could be consistent as an industry. But what I wanted to mention is that when I moved to, I'm a licensed realtor. I've been licensed for 12 years. I came from Seattle. I was licensed there. And now in California, I'm licensed here. I was also a licensed appraiser. Okay, so I'm not just talking off the hip here. This is quite a bit of experience. When I moved here, I heard about the PACE program. And I was talking to my neighbor who worked for the program, and he told me about the issues with the realtors. And I saw it. It clicked with me. A lot of what they said and a lot of their issues were spot on. And I actually wrote a letter to the company, and I said, my name's Chris Peterson, I'm a realtor, and I think I can help you with this. And I got in the door, I got it 9 interviews later, I got the job, and I wrote my own job description, and here we are. And I will tell you that from the beginning, Kim Schaefer and her colleagues have been pushing for a certain set of standards with this program. And I'm happy to say that because of the AB 2693 and 1284 that it just went through, we've checked off the things on their list that are relevant. And as a realtor, I will tell you that when you hear things like first priority lien position is non-negotiable, that's like saying, I want to drive, but I'm not going to take a car. Okay, this is our vehicle. And it's no different than anything else, just pay it off. And because we disclose that on the disclosures, and because we'd follow up with the phone call and say, if you decide you have to sell, or something happens, life happens, and you have to sell your property, no, you're going to have to pay this off. Now, with this new legislation, we've got more conservative debt-to-income ratios. We've got a regulatory agency. We've got income verification. We've got all of these things that are really making this program start to make a lot of sense. And I have to hand it to Kim and her colleagues for pushing this stuff, because it was really important. But I will tell you, it stops the lien position. It really is. It's irrelevant. As a realtor, I'll tell you, you just pay it off. Just pay it off. That's all there is to it. It doesn't make a darn bit of difference. The fact that FHA and VA have the guidance is just a bonus. But it's not always going to transfer, because your buyer may not want to take on your debt. The lender may have overlays that they say, we're not going to do that. Even though the FHA will insure it, we're not going to do it. We know that those things happen. So that's why you have to be prepared to pay it off. And we do that before you originate. Now, you've only have 4950 assessments in the city of Taft. Okay? So you're way ahead of the curve. Okay? You're not gonna see any of the issues that we've seen prior, because of all this brand new regulation and legislation. So you get to benefit from the learning curve of this program. So I would encourage you to stick with the private property rights. Let the people choose. Don't take away that option. We have about a 60-70% approval rate, but we only have a 40% conversion rate. And you know what that means? That means that people are looking at their options. And so for those 40% of the 70% that are approved that actually use this program, don't take away that right for them. So, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next up, Jeremy Hutman.
I think I gave.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Jeremy Hutman. I'm at 4767 Lamont Street in San Diego. California First, the PACE program that I work with, is sponsored by the California Statewide Communities Development Authority, or CSCDA. CSCDA is the largest joint powers authority in the state of California, and it's co-sponsored by the League of California Cities and the State Association of Counties. There are about 500 member jurisdictions that are members of CSCDA, including the City of Taft. You've been a member since, I think, the early 90s, so really appreciate your membership in the program. CSCDA provides conduit bond financing to its member agencies to improve the community, to improve infrastructure and improve services. So far throughout the state, CSCDA has issued about $60 billion in bonds. So we have a lot of experience providing benefits to all the members of CSCDA, and PACE is a natural extension of that. It provides a service to the community to take advantage of financing that helps improve properties. And so we're very proud of the program that we've offered. And one of the things that perhaps my colleagues didn't mention, but they mentioned a lot of great things, is the reason that we're here today. It's because PACE is widely considered the most effective financing program for energy upgrades in the history of the state of California. Over 90% of the state has this financing mechanism available. And although the city of Bakersfield and Kern County opted out, that's really an anomaly. It's not the trend. This year alone, over 51 jurisdictions have joined PACE, and since Bakersfield and Kern have opted out, 15 others have reviewed the same things and decided to either join PACE or expand their PACE program because it's working so well. The only cities that are opting out, or the only place where this is actually happening, is in Kern County. All of your neighboring counties, the rest of the state, everybody is expanding their PACE program. Now, what we've all been hoping for is for PACE to have better regulation and better oversight. And we've been fighting for this for a while. It's rare that you would have a financing company fighting for more regulation. But this is a public-private partnership and a service to the community, and that's what we've been fighting for. So finally, last Friday, and this is something that's different between when Bakersfield and Kern made their decision and right now, literally last Friday, in an almost unanimous vote, the California legislature passed AB 1284. And that creates regulatory oversight for PACE. By the Department of Business Oversight. So this is the same agency that oversees all non-bank lenders in the state, including mortgage lenders, credit unions, and other types of consumer financing. They are now overseeing PACE as of Friday. And so what the realtors have said in Bakersfield, they came in with 4 specific asks before they could support PACE financing. They said they need there to be a debt to income considered in underwriting. There needs to be stronger valuation models for the PACE program, and there needs to be regulatory oversight, and it needs to not be in the senior lien position. I believe my previous colleague addressed the senior lien position, but AB 1284 actually addresses all of those issues. And it's now in place in the state. So if you can open to page 2 of the document I just gave you, this is one of those bills that everybody supported. If you look, it's not just the PACE program, it's not just the PACE sponsors. This is the financial services agencies, the real estate industry supported this, California Bankers Association, Credit Union League, Escrow Association, Land Title Association, Mortgage Bankers Association, tons and tons of local governments throughout the state. This was the bill we've all been waiting for, and we now have it. So what this does is it takes the responsibility away from the local cities. You all don't have time to oversee all the different PACE programs that are out there and everything that's going on in the community. And right now you're stuck in an argument between realtors and PACE supporters that you don't necessarily need to be in. You don't have time to review everything. Everything has now been escalated to the state level. The Department of Business Oversight now is overseeing PACE programs. There's going to be a rulemaking process, and this is what we've all wanted for the stability of PACE in the future. There's no reason to get rid of PACE or stop the PACE program because now we have the solution that we've all been waiting for, and it can continue to serve the community. We really hope that you'll allow PACE to continue here because we have everything that in place now to really positively serve the community. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for your comments. Now then, that is everybody here who is here to speak in support. Should any member of the council have a question for any of those gentlemen, now is the time to ask that. I believe Councilman Cryer, you had it.
I do, with Dustin, please. Hope you can hear me out there. I have several questions to answer because it took cities like us and county to bring in new legislature in to help protect the consumers and stuff. How was it before? Was it had to be a lot of complaints and stuff to didn't take our council to do it, or Bakersfield to do it, or Kern County to make it happen.
Right.
There had been a lot of issues in the past to bring out the new legislature.
So what we have at our company is we actually have a very robust compliance department with ex-law enforcement, retired assistant DAs and so forth that actually open up cases to make sure that they protect consumers and be able to look at all of those different parts of a of a complaint from a homeowner, or making sure that the homeowner and the contractor come to an agreement on something. So we've always had things that are in place, but the real estate community has been asking for actual oversight, and thus we wanted to make sure that moved forward at the state level. So we endorsed and supported having oversight through the Department of Business Oversight through the state of California. But there was the other oversight that each of us has, as Jeremy said, with CSCDA, Monica said with GSFA. We have the Western Riverside Council of Governments, that is a joint power authority that you opted into. They are a governmental entity that has a board that is all elected officials that actually has complete oversight of the program as well. And they actually do confirmed term calls after our confirmed term calls from their offices in Riverside with every single customer that comes on board with our program. So there's always been that level of oversight, but now there's actually a state level oversight that actually makes sure that every PACE provider has to be licensed through the state as a PACE provider and a financier. And then they can be kicked out if they don't abide by the rules and regulations set forward.
But was there a problem in the past?
No, just said one person at a time.
But was there a problem in the past, though, to bring it on?
I'm not going to say that there's been a problem. There's been some complaints, but overall, yes, there have been some complaints in the past about contractors and what their actions were. But they're no different than what contractors are already doing in your community today. The only difference is they had a different financing arm, so it was brought more to the forefront.
And was there any homes ever been? You said that the fund was never touched.
Correct.
Reserved. But was there any homes that was foreclosed on that didn't have to go through the fund because when they foreclosed on a home, they paid off the debt? So was there any homes that was lost in the process?
There have been no foreclosures here in the city of Taft.
Or anywhere in the state?
There's been 99 foreclosures that have been in the state of California, but that's by the lenders for people missing their mortgage payments. So, I mean, that's not PACE related. That's because people fell behind on their mortgage payments and stopped paying their mortgages. So that could have been due to a loss of job, due to, a change in their losing a significant other and having less earning capacity. There's a lot of different things, divorce. There's a lot of different things that come into play as to why someone would need to walk away from their property.
So but the property that they walked away from, when we sold it, it paid for the PACE solar system or whatever.
That's correct.
Okay. Sorry about that.
And then obviously the property is sold on the open market.
So what was the biggest complaint? We're a small city here. We have our issues we're talking about now, but what was the real complaint from Kern County and Bakersfield that was so drastic? They was because of the assessors. We going to the public.
No, I think it all came down to just a thought that there was misrepresentation from contractors, of which that's been dealt with and looked at and thoroughly addressed.
Okay. Now I have a question on there. There's 40% of the people that qualified in TAP, you were saying, that hadn't. I had a question, but I lost my train of thought on it. But
I think I know where you're going. So overall, there's about 70% of people that apply actually are approved. And of that, about 40% of those people actually move forward with PACE as their financing option. So that means it's an option that they're looking at, but they're not always taking that option. They may have another option, or they were just looking at it, to see what their options were.
You see that be better than some of the counties doing the property tax would be better than the state did on the income tax part of it, because a lot of people get refunds and stuff that they can pay the state. The county, as far as be a state issue in the future, not right now or anything, but if we have the state finance it or some other entity other than our county to.
So the county does not finance this in any way, shape, or form?
Well, they don't, but they do go ahead if you don't pay it, the property taxes, then they get involved by foreclosing or through the tax lien on the property. after what, a period of 5 years?
Yeah, but there are fees that are associated with that are 100% recouped by the county tax collector. So that's 100% recouped, and that's why, as you see on that sheet, that 3-pager from Assemblyman Dumbobne's office, that you see from Jeremy, that the treasurer and tax collectors for the state of California were all in favor of these bills moving forward. They want to see all of this, and they had a bill where they were looking at that. They were, I don't know if it was co-sponsored, but with the real estate community, but it was a bill, AB 271, that they decided, the author decided that they would back off of it and decide not to move forward with it because they feel these protections are enough for what we need here in the state of California.
So the bottom line is having those two different changes to the assembly that passed, put more teeth to the program.
Absolutely, sir.
More legitimized the base, and would protect the consumer.
It makes a safer consumer product for your constituents. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any other questions of the?
I have one.
Step back up. Yes, go ahead.
Mrs. Garcia?
Oh, I'm sorry, Dustin. If I may, before you bring up Ms. Garcia, just as a point of clarification, because Dustin, you brought this up.
Sure.
Regarding the Western Riverside Council of Government.
Correct.
And that you say they have oversight, and obviously they have a dog in the hunt, but just for everybody to understand what's going on. Riverside Council of Government launched its PACE program in 2011, right?
Yes.
As a way to use private money, this is private money, by the way, to support a decimated construction industry and help homeowners conserve energy, help with that program. It has partnered with Renovate America and Renew Financial to offer loans and now oversees one of the largest PACE operations in the United States of America. In point of fact, last fiscal year, 17.5% of their total budget, or over $9.5 million that came into them, came from fees contributed to the PACE program. So they have a very good reason for oversight, don't they?
And that's why they spend the money on making sure they do the oversight, of course.
All right, very good. Thank you very much.
I just have a quick question for you on this document we received here about the AB 1284 program. And they were saying that there's a whole list of councilmen, people, and organizations that are in favor of AB 1284. And there's one opposition, Wide Green Energy Fund, which is are you against this program?
No, we opposed it for a very short period just to engage in conversations and make sure that our mission was well represented within that bill, but we absolutely supported that for the majority of the development of that bill, and we are very much in support of AB 1284.
Well, you might want to get your name off of here, opposition. You're the only ones that are showing opposition to this program.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. We will make sure we make that effort, but absolutely, we are very much in favor of the legislation that passed last week, and we've expressed our support. We've had individuals within Y-Green working with legislators, working with our colleagues from the industry, and kudos to those who supported, and kudos to the realtors for asking for certain items that this legislation addresses. I think that it makes this industry more sustainable moving forward. It creates a better product for your constituents, and I hope that it puts you all at ease that this is a very good program that has been endorsed by the state legislature, by a number of counties and cities. As mentioned, HERO mentioned over 400 jurisdictions have supported the HERO program. We are the second largest provider in the state of California with over 300 jurisdictions supporting the program.
Well, again, I
All the
might
more
suggest
reason to clarify your position on this. I
might suggest that you contact this Assembly member's office and get your name off of the opposition list.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It doesn't look good.
Are there any other questions?
No, sir.
All right, then we're going to move forward. Next up is going to be those wishing to speak in opposition of this program. I'm going to start with Kim Schaefer.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Kim Schaefer. My address is 224 Monte Vista Drive in Bakersfield, California. I'm here tonight in kind of two elements. Your last meeting, we had Mike Turnipseed from the Kern Taxpayers Association that was here. He was not able to make it tonight. I serve on his board of directors, and he asked me to reiterate Kern Taxpayers Association and what their position on that is. I'm going to read you just a quick paragraph again about why Kern Tax opposes the PACE program and is asking you to rescind the resolution, or issue the resolutions to rescind the program. Kern Tax cannot support the assignment of a tax-like burden levied for the benefit of private parties. In this case, homeowners and environmentally driven contractors, even if established through a negotiation. This assignment of responsibility, while it may be fair in the context of payment for services, should be relegated to other equally appropriate transactions and not levied as if determined through legislation or a regulatory fiat. A reasoned person could argue that lenders would be less inclined to enter into a financial terms where a risk of subordination of their rights are high in the event of failure to pay the note payable. One could alter the question and ask, would the city or county support such a program if it subordinated the taxes? The logical answer is no. The taxes are levied, duly approved taxing actions for the benefit of the public good. The notion that single private transaction have the same benefit is hard to assess on a specific installation basis. So again, I think for Kern Taxpayers Association, the priority status of the assessment, it seems unfair. There's no other lending situation like it. Why do these guys get to go in front of everybody else? What's next? Just because the electric cars are good for the community, is someone going to come up with a program and that goes on the taxes? So we have a real issue with the role that the Kern County Tax Assessor plays in this, collecting for these private corporations, etc. So Kern Tax's position stands. And then lastly, I'm here again as the Government Affairs Director for the Bakersfield Association of Realtors. I've been working on this issue for more than a year. It came to me not only through our realtor members, but as we started to be more public, we were getting tons of calls from homeowners with very specific situations. And the reason that, the city manager, Alan Tandy, in Bakersfield, I gave him a list. We documented every single problem that we had. We had over 60 that we were able to talk to these folks, document the problems. We knew who the lender was. We knew what kind of project it was or what the problem was. They were bad. I was dealing with people in tears. We're trying to help them. They're humiliated. They're embarrassed. They were maybe not smart enough to see, what these contracts were. And we tried to help them where we could, but it became clear to us that this was an issue that had to be addressed. I have, and my state association and other colleagues have been working with some of the providers. We've been talking specifically about our concerns. I'm not sure about this legislation, and it's going to be a long time before it's implemented. The California Association of Realtors did not go and sponsor this bill or support it. We actually voiced our concerns because it was pushed through so quickly at the last minute. There's still a lot of different organizations that have legitimate concerns about loopholes, etc. There's a lot more work to be done. And I know that you guys don't have a lot of homeowners in here banging the drum, but as this program grows, you will. I promise you that you will. And you don't need to take that risk right now. It's not worth it. And in the end, the city of Bakersfield is now being sued. The county's being sued because they decided they didn't want to do this anymore. They can't bully us into keeping these programs.
Hey, we're not arguing about this.
So,
finish your statement, please.
Anyway, that's all I have to say. If you have any questions, I'm happy to.
All right. Thank you very much. Next up, Midge Jimerson. I'll remind everybody in the audience that nobody heckled or made any rude or derogatory remarks or noises during the course of your addressing this council. I will not tolerate anything happening on the other side of that. Bear that in mind. Go ahead. Your name and address.
Thank you. My name is Midge Jimerson. My address is 326 Chester Avenue, Bakersfield, California. Do you need the zip? Okay. I am the 2017 president of the Bakersfield Association of Realtors. First off, I do want to say thank you for hearing us today, Mr. Mayor and City Council people. Thank you for your time. I represent more than 2,000 members in Bakersfield that are realtors. And last month when I talked to you, we talked about some of the same issues that I'm going to talk about again. We're not against job creation. We're not against solar. We are against what hurts the consumer. When the PACE program was originated and it was put on the tax bill, it creates a lot of problems that are just now starting to surface and have continued to surface. It's a problem. The biggest problem is they need to get it off the tax bill. Why should the county be the collection agency for improvements to our homes? That's not right. And what happens when these people get this? They keep talking about the fact that the homes were foreclosed on because they couldn't pay their mortgage payment. That's a problem. That's true. When you've gone into the PACE program and this attaches to your tax bill, and now all of a sudden your impound goes up, your house payment goes up, and you can't make the house payment, of course it doesn't look like the PACE bill failed for you. It looks like you just can't pay your mortgage payment. Well, you were qualified originally for that house based on what your income was. And now they found a whole new way to increase your house payment, and you can't pay it because all of a sudden it went up because of the improvements you did to your house. If it was off the tax bill, that would never have happened. They would still have a way to keep their house. So that's a problem. This is a government problem. This is not our local problem. There's no fix locally. The government has to fix it, not us. We can't fix it. There are too many other things that we need to see achieved that other people will bring up after me. I don't understand why the county is the tax collector. I don't understand why people can't understand that the houses that get foreclosed on are because their payments went up. This should not be in our tax bill. When the program came around, everybody thought it was a great idea, and I understand why. But when you start entering into a contract for a PACE program, do you know in 2 years whether you'll still be living in that house? Do you know in 1 year whether you'll still have that job? You don't. It's a bad program. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and it should not be attached to our taxes. And I'm going to let other people speak after me because they've got a lot more to say. There are a lot of homeowners that have been injured by this. There's a lot of people in our county that have been hurt by this program. And I would hope that you guys would see that this is not the right program to keep in place for your city. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your comment. Next up, Sherry. Sherry, would you pronounce your last name for me? Anthis? Okay. Sherry Anthem. State now that we know your name, your address for the record, please.
Sherry Anthis, 9100 Ming Avenue, Suite 100. Hi, I want to thank you for your time. I think I'm going to speak a little bit different than what you've heard so far. If you paid any attention to what went on with the city and the county, you probably understand that I was propelled into this not by choice. I really didn't understand what was happening. I was brought here by a little lady. She came into our office and she's about 84 years old, had lost her husband, and was absolutely positive she knew exactly what she was doing and had made a very informed decision. And I will never forget the look on her face as her daughter stood here and we stood over here. She made $1,400 a month. They had leaned her taxes to the point of $400 a month. And she repeated over and over again, "No, that is not what they told me. No, that is not what I agreed to." She was losing her home. It was her family home. It was where her husband had passed away. And she did not understand that she had made a decision that was going to cost her her home. I listened to her and I decided in some way I was going to figure out a way to help. Unfortunately, that was my first story, and I could keep you here all night with over 200 other stories. I could tell you the story of the police officer who was transferred to Arizona, had put an AC system on her home, and by the time she left, 16 months later, paid $16,000 for a $2,500 AC system on a 1,400 square foot house. So they don't like me. I understand that. I am telling you from a realtor's perspective, because what I deal with are homeowners who don't necessarily have all of the information when they make a decision that will have a direct impact on their home. Bakersfield's average home price runs about $271,000. I ran some numbers for your community just before I came out here, and I know that you are lower than that. You're going to hear that there are other areas within our state. They have a much higher home value. Their mid-range is in the $500,000, $600,000 price point, which means a tax lien can be easier absorbed. When you're in a low price point, what this is going to do, it's going to affect your move-up market, which means when someone puts a tax lien on their home and they find out just to sell their home in that current market, they have to write a check to clear the PACE lien on their taxes, it has completely eaten up that equity, which means, number one, either they can't list their house, there is no equity to buy up, or they're going to have to write a check if they're forced to sell it. So the lady that moved to Arizona lost the home she was purchasing at her new place of employment. That transaction had to be canceled because she walked away with $150 on the sale of her home. The more important thing to understand is we were told years back when this conversation started that these were transferable. The reality is most of the financing mechanisms that are available in our price point will not allow the transfer. They will require the payoff. The payoff includes a high prepaid interest. It includes administrative fees. They did do away with the penalties for early payoff, but those still, if you pay off your mortgage, the cost to pay off a $200,000 mortgage is a fraction of the percentage of the cost to pay off a PACE lien, which means you have eaten up any equity in that property. My concern as a realtor is this will have a negative impact on your homeowner and their ability to sell. This will have a negative impact on your buyer, especially your entry-level buyer, because those homeowners that have improved their property don't have enough equity to move up and open that inventory. We are already seeing that in Bakersfield. I decided to start tracking this. When they made the decision, I thought it would go away. The unfortunate situation is we now are having those what we anticipated come up. And we're having to come up with creative ideas to help people sell their homes, pay off the PACE liens, and decide what does their future as far as homeownership look like, because that has had a negative impact on their equity and their ability to move forward with their life.
Excuse me, ma'am, but you've used up your time.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, Jeannie Radzik.
Thank you for letting us come tonight. My name is Jean Radzik. I am a realtor. I live in Bakersfield at 3613 Panorama Drive. I just want to perhaps clarify a few statements that were made during the course of other presentations. The first statement was that this is about property rights. It is about property rights, but there's a reason why we have property rights, and that is to help people and protect them. That's one of the goals of being a realtor. We are the people who go to our legislators, who talk to them and say, wait, you can't pass these lovely ideas because it's harmful to home ownership. The bill that was just passed through the legislature has not only not been signed by the governor, it is still very fluid because he has serious concerns about it, as several of the stakeholders do. It was intended to give some teeth, but why is it, do you think, that the legislature has suddenly brought this up? It isn't because they say, let me think now. It's because we have been beating this drum. And it's because when Bakersfield and Kern County decided to withdraw from the program, I have colleagues up and down the state that called and said, we need your help. We need to get rid of it. It's terrible. It's awful to work with. It's something that it's hurting our homeowners. How can you help us do this? It is not in a vacuum. Sherry has already articulated the loss that we've seen, and Midge also commented. It doesn't show up that they're losing their home because of the PACE lien. They lose their homes because they can no longer afford the payment, which comes to include their taxes, because that's the price point that we have for our sales. So it's just, we expect to pay off the liens. The problem is that the PACE liens being put on these homes will sometimes exceed the value of the homes. Now, I understand no one really wants to do that. They may not do it intentionally, but they're not using appraisals. If you don't get an appraisal on your house, how do you know what the true value is? I'm a realtor. I've been doing this for 30 years. And sometimes I'd like to have the appraiser go out before me and give me that crystal ball snapshot of what its value is. But these folks that are signing on to put $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, $60,000 worth of improvements on their homes have no appraisal. They're going off of basically an equity base. Now, there have been strides, there have been improvements in the process, and I will certainly be the first to tell you that. But it's not enough. The teeth are not strong enough. The people who are making these loans out for them are still not qualified lenders. Lenders have to have a license. They have to have an appraisal. None of that is happening. So people are not getting their best value. And one of the other comments was made, says that these are low-cost loans. I'm thinking that 11 to 14% is not considered low cost in my brain. You know, if you put a HELOC on your house, it's not going to be between 11 and 14%. That's what these people are paying. It's huge. And you can't refinance it. If you went and got a home equity line of credit on your home, you can refinance at some point. You can refinance your whole house to absorb that. But when the balance is so high, there's not enough room to do the refinance. That's where these people get caught up short. They're not able to do that. So the income verification that they're talking about, yeah, the current bill, that verification is still coming after the program or after the project has been completed in many cases. So there is not an income verification that these people can afford. The AB 1284 is a good step in the right direction. It was not co-sponsored by the Realtor organization because we have too many concerns with it. But the reason Mr. Dabney brought this up is because his Realtor constituents asked him to. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay. That completes the people speaking both for and in opposition of this public hearing. Therefore, I am going to close that public hearing, and I would ask for discussion. I'm sorry. Yes, now's the time for discussion between the council members regarding this program. So,
Mayor, can we ask them questions before we close the hearing?
Yes, you may.
Okay, sorry about that. I gave them.
Do you have questions for the?
I do have some.
Okay, who would you like to ask?
I'd like to have several. Lady has spoken, and maybe if she can answer it, then maybe the other ones can answer.
Okay, if you may, please come back up to the podium.
Sorry about that, Mayor.
No worries, no worries.
It's like a reason I'm asking these questions is because I want the public to know that we are taking this seriously and that we want to get very informative answers to our questions, and maybe to my radio land or TV land may want to hear it too. But earlier I had a statement that there was 90 plus homes that was foreclosed in the state, and you're mentioning that you had 200 people. You had to hear stories from. You had to hear stories from that foreclosed in Kern County. 200 people, 200 homes. Is that correct?
I'm actually the vice president for Coldwell Banker in Bakersfield. I have about 200 agents. In the process of my job is to help agents and buyers and sellers who are struggling with the listing, the escrow, losing escrows, deals falling apart, finding out that they aren't going to be able to close. So over the course of time, when the first issue came up, daily, we put out an all call. Very unexpected to me. Hey, is anyone having any issues with this? I'd like your feedback. Do you have any concerns? I was bombarded with agents saying, I couldn't take the listing. When they found out their payoff, they can't sell their home.
This is Kern County agents.
This is Bakersfield's Coldwell Banker.
Okay.
Yeah, the Coldwell Banker in Bakersfield. These are the only agents from my company. Multiple stories. Since that time, I told you the first story with the lady that had her issue, but since that time, I've started keeping a log. And I have had over 200 issues. Either the seller could not sell, there wasn't enough equity to pay it off, they didn't understand the refinance process, so we had to go through the whole, you can't just transfer it. Multiple listings were canceled, multiple escrows were canceled, multiple sellers who thought they were going to receive money had to write a check. So the payoff process and understanding how a PACE lien affects you when you decide to sell your home, since we started this, I currently have a log of 200. Most of those and many of those were provided to the city and to the county, so we gave them specifics. Some of them are just the stories that my agents asked my assistants or shared with us as we were going through the process at the county and state level.
Well, say you have a home that's $100,000 home. You add $20,000 worth of solar or whatever upgrades on it. You add, and you can sell your home for $120,000. That's not. You can't sell your home that way, or they have to pay when they sell the home. They can go ahead and deduct that from the escrow account.
Excellent question. So if you're going to sell your home, there are costs involved in just the sale. First of all, you're going to have to pay transfer fees, commissions, title. There's just costs and fees. We always counsel a seller that when you decide to sell your home, you need to look at anywhere from 8 to 10% of the sales price you accept to actually sell the home. It's just the cost of the sale. It pays all of the fees associated with it. So if you have a $100,000 home and you have a $20,000 PACE lien, and you try to sell the home for $150,000, you may think that $20,000 PACE lien is going to be paid off for $20,000. It's not. It's going to have prepaid interest, fees, administration fees. I have yet to see any of those contracts match. I've seen where administrative fees were as much as $5,000 and as little as $15,000. They don't seem to be consistent, but I can tell you one thing that is consistent. The seller is always shocked. They're always absolutely shocked at what it's going to take to clear that PACE lien and what they will actually recognize as net proceeds after it's paid off. I will also tell you the fees associated with paying off a first or a second don't even come close to what the fees are to pay off the PACE lien. The PACE lien payoff fees exceed the payoff costs of a $200,000, $250,000 mortgage. Just the cost itself of paying off the lien.
And to the best of your knowledge, though, how many homes or how many owners have lost their homes in Kern County because of the PACE program?
I am not qualified to answer that, to be honest with you, sir. I don't want to tell you that I know of any. I believe at our last meeting, and this actually came from Mr. Relich, he gave the number of about 4. I think there were 4 homes in Kern County. I know you've heard this. It's hard to attribute a foreclosure directly to PACE, because when you put a tax lien on your property, it's incorporated into your impound account. Oh, okay. So when you default on your mortgage because your impound account has gone up by $600 a month, it's not going to reflect as a PACE lien foreclosure. Your impound account went up $600 a month. Your payment on your house was increased. You stopped making your mortgage payment. The PACE lien doesn't go into default because the mortgage We've all experienced this through the short sale crash, all of that. The mortgage company continues to pay the homeowner's insurance and they continue to pay the taxes until the property sells. So you don't see a foreclosure attributed to PACE because it's simply paying the property taxes. So the PACE lien stays pure and it is made whole. Regardless of whether the lender takes a hit, the PACE lien is made whole. I'd like to address that fund. The fund that makes the lender whole. Here's my issue with that fund. A seller loses their home. A seller goes into short sale, which impacts them forever, or foreclosure. That fund makes the mortgage holder whole. It doesn't help the seller. It doesn't put them in another house. It doesn't repair their credit. It doesn't do anything for the equity that they lost in the home, but it makes the first lien holder whole. So the fact that that fund hasn't been touched, to me, is an insult to the homeowner because they are the ones left in pain.
The question that keeps haunting me a little bit is that, only 90 plus homes in California was foreclosed on because of PACE. And I just want to make sure that's an accurate number or not, because out of 34,000 plus satisfied customers, only 90 that had an issue. I just wanted to see if the numbers are the same numbers you've been hearing, or the facts are not quite
It's about 0.08%.
And again, I can only give you personal experience from, the transactions that we close within my company. It is the single greatest issue we have faced in the last 2 years. It is the single greatest issue that forces sellers either off the market or causes transactions to fail. It is the single greatest issue that has caused a seller to stay in their home and cancel a repurchase because there's not enough money to move forward. So that's just our personal experience as a real estate company. Our consumer is a homeowner and the buyer. Those are the people that I've seen hurt.
The one last and final question. I know we're all anxious here to vote. Then the AB 1284 and other ones that passed, that's going to, in your opinion, it sounds like you say it's not enough, too late. You still, in your opinion, is not satisfying the realty industry at all, what's coming out of Sacramento? Because, I don't trust the legislature anyway to begin with. There's a lot of issues there I have. But do you think it's going to help a lot in the future?
Okay, I'm going to address this first. We have some immovable objects. And the first immovable object is we do not believe it should be on the tax roll. This legislation doesn't address that. Our second immovable object is that we do not believe that a contractor should act as a loan originator. And as this bill does not address those two main, for us, immovable objects. I do believe the pressure from up and down the state and across the nation is what prompted the bill. CAR did not get behind it because we have some very serious concerns that are tied directly to the tax roll, and they're tied directly to the valuation and the homeowner's ability to repay prior to encumbering the property. This bill does not address those issues.
That answer your question?
Yeah, thank you very much, and I'll do the last question.
All right, very good. Thank you for your responses. Are there any other council members that have any questions?
I do not.
All right, that being the case then, we will indeed close the public hearing. All right, now then, discussion amongst the council members regarding this. Councilman Pryor, I believe you asked plenty of questions. I think you got answers.
Yes.
You brought forth that information. I thank you for that. Councilman Miller.
We're in just this council discussion.
That is correct.
Okay, well, I can start out. I just had some random thoughts listening to both sides of this issue. The realtors are assuming that the contractors are bad folks, and the contractors seeming like the realtors are not up on what's going on. I'm sure that there have been some contractors that have taken advantage of some folks, and some people obviously shouldn't have been given a loan based on their income, and maybe it was not looked at thoroughly, what they could afford, what the appraisal on the home was. Is this going to add value if you're going to add new windows or AC or whatever? Is it going to increase the value? Obviously, in a down market, that wouldn't be a very good idea. I still look back into the real estate crash market in 2008, and I'm assuming there was a lot of realtors at that time that sold homes to people that shouldn't have ever even qualified for homes. So there's a little guilt on both sides, I think. Since we've been discussing this for the past month or so, I haven't had anybody come to me or contact me about problems with the PACE program, but I have 3 folks, personal friends, that have taken advantage of the PACE program, and I'm very aware of the aspects of the program and where it's heading. So for me, it's 3-0. So I'm assuming that some people are thinking that people are not sophisticated enough. If they're sophisticated to buy the house in the first place, to me, they should be sophisticated enough to know that what kind of loan they're getting into. I'm sure that a lot of people who are homeowners also buy cars or buy rental property or buy other things. So for me, it's kind of a buyer beware situation. The big sticking issue for me too is when the PACE folks are talking to a potential customer, will the improvements increase the value of the home to cover the cost if the home is to be sold? If you're looking to to sell the house in 2 years, well, obviously that's not going to be a good deal unless it's going to increase the value. For Mr. Cryer's example, $100,000 home, you get a $20,000 windows and AC unit. Is that based on you're trying to improve the value of the home to sell it at a higher value, or are you just trying to get out of the oppressive heat in Bakersfield and Taft? So are we the only county in the state that have dropped out of the PACE program?
Yes.
Okay. So that's 50, how many counties are there? 50? 58, so that's 57-1 so far. So to me, it doesn't sound like it's a huge problem at this time. Far as I know, in this community, it has not been a problem. We haven't had the kinds of issues that the realtors have been talking about. Someone made mention of someone's not smart enough to figure out the program. Some homeowners are not smart enough to figure out the program. Well, then to me, they were smart enough to buy the house. So that kind of washes over me. I am a little troubled by the first position situation, but the PACE program people, they didn't set that up. The government set that up. As you had mentioned earlier, it's the government needing to fix that if that's a huge problem with the program. We find out that there's 40,000 PACE deals and there's 90 that went bad. I'm sorry for those 90 folks, but then there's 30-some plus thousand people that had a good experience with the program. So that's where I'm at this time.
All right, thank you very much.
I thank everybody for all their input that made presentations, and it was very helpful, and the documents that we received were helpful too. So thank you.
Councilman Bryant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you were to ask any of the folks up here on this dais what one of their main priorities, main goals, and main tasks is as a member of the City Council, their answer should be to ensure and promote quality of life within the city. Anytime this taxpayer has options, especially if those options are clearly explained to them, which I believe we're moving further and further toward, even though that may have been a narrow gap where there wasn't clear explanations. We should strive for that. So we should not, in my opinion, take this option away with the assumption that people are out there acting in their own best interest. If they don't do that, we can't bubble wrap folks. We can't bubble wrap the taxpayer and hamstring the folks who really need it. Now, I can say without a shadow of doubt in my mind that there are some holes in this, and I'll agree with Councilmember Miller, and I'm sure some other folks are going to talk about this. Priority lien status bugs me. It's not fair that those folks jump in line second and get to go to the front of the line. Not fair, but that's an issue that the government apparently is taking issue with. They're taking up, hopefully, with some legislative changes. The other part with that I struggle with is having the government intertwined and ultimately working on behalf of private industry. But at the end of the day, again, that's a legislative issue, and I struggle with that. But at the end of the day, this is an option. Taxpayers should have options. What I do find really troubling is, just like Councilmember Miller said, we've had this on the agenda 3, if not 4 times. All of the outspokenness we've had from locals has been positive. There have been plenty of opportunity for those folks who may have been hindered, who obviously are not, because we don't see those in the numbers and we don't see them outcrying here, to come in here and tell us that this is bad. So my personal opinion, the impression that I get that this is something that's good for the taxpayer of the city of Taft. I don't care what the county of Kern is doing necessarily, the state of California. How has it impacted us directly? Of course, I want to take those other folks into consideration, but at the end of the day, we legislate within the city limits here in the city of Taft, and that's where I'm at. What I'm really curious about is, from the realtor's perspective, is I understand you guys have a vested interest in this, as does the opposition. But it seems to be vehement opposition now when folks are trying to sell their house and you realize that you may not be making commissions. Those folks may not be able to sell up like they'd want to. Of course, we all want to, but sometimes life says, you can't afford that now. How long have realtors been opposed to this? Have they been opposed to it since PACE came into existence? Just something to chew on. If you haven't, then to oppose it now seems a little self-serving. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Hill.
I'm just kind of curious, when there's disclosing in the standard of disclosure, how are they describing the prepayment penalties? Now, I have to go back to car loans because that's truly what I know. Years ago, we had a thing called Rule of 78, which meant your car loan was front-loaded. Everything in your interest, from the very first payment you made, if it was a $4 payment, $398 was interest and $1 was principal. When you got to the last payment, it was the other way around. That's the way all car loans were. Now they're all called simple interest, which means it's equal interest, equal payment. That came because there were so many problems with prepayment. How are they disclosing on prepayment? Is it in fact what the realtors are saying, that we've got people that are paying huge fees? That's a concern to me. Or in fact, is every one of these loans equal? That's a curiosity. I mean, from what I'm hearing, one side is saying it's not and one side is saying it is. So I think that obviously legislation is the biggest thing we have to, but we can't fix legislation. It has to be fixed very slowly. So it is a buyer beware situation. And as with everyone else is saying, we have nobody in here right now that is talking about that experience. What we have heard is people telling us they've had good experience. If you are old enough to buy a house, you should be old enough to know about these things. But disclosure is important. And again, I can't control their disclosure. Buyer beware.
All right, thank you very much.
Could I make one more comment before you go off, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, you may.
If we eliminated the PACE program, what would replace it? And nobody's talked about that. And I'm not asking for answers from the audience, but you got to think about the PACE program is obviously a program that was not available either from a bank, a credit union, some other lending source, and the people qualified for the PACE program. So where would those 30, 40,000 people have gotten their loan if the PACE program wasn't available and have been satisfied? So that was the only other question I have. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. The PACE program, back in 2011, was meant to bring private sector funds back in to make them available for loans for energy-saving improvements. That's what that is. These are private sector funds that are brought in. And then after the fact, the loans are sold as bonds. These things end up on the stock market. Okay, there's a bond holder. There's somebody earning interest on these things. And that's the way money works. there's a little bit of agreement between the two groups that we've heard from for the past several weeks. And the agreement is that there was a problem. There was a problem. Otherwise, the proposed legislation, which has not been completed yet, wouldn't even be here. It was recognized. It was recognized by some of the lenders, the HERO program. They made changes to their process, and their changes were actually incorporated in some of the legislation that is proposed. The protection as far as buyer beware, but protecting consumer is an important part of that. During the course of all of this, through the PACE industry has been receptive to changes in California law, it strongly opposes an effort in Congress to put loans under the Federal Truth in Lending Act, a move that would treat the financing more like a mortgage and subject the lender to oversight from the Federal Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Now, we're not going to get into a discussion this evening about our differing opinions regarding that, but let it be known that Congress is also looking at taking it that step further. One of the main things that the real estate world is opposed with is that first place, that super first. Quite frankly, I don't like it either. I don't know why it has to be there, but if you're on the bondholder side, then you do. You understand that. I believe there's going to be further discussion about that at a much higher level. That's going to be at a federal level. Where Congress will go with it, I'm not sure right now, but obviously it's being considered. Part of what's going on with the PACE program right now is some cleanup, and part of it is internal, perhaps motivated by all the print that you're getting and all the focus on this. Perhaps some of it just simply because you think it's the moral and correct thing to do. I would hope some of it would be the latter. Not all of it, but at least some of it. That being the case, those legislative changes are being considered. They have been approved to a certain level, but that legislation has not been completed. And it's fluid. Everybody who knows anything about legislation knows that. I looked at some of the recommendations that were sent to us by people on either side of this agreement. One of the beauties of the city of Taft is it's not hard to find somebody and talk face to face. I told everybody in the world that I don't Facebook, and I don't. But I face-to-face very well. I prefer that method of communication. And I did communicate with some people regarding that. One for at least 30 minutes. That individual said that when he was looking for improvement, his air conditioning system needed to be replaced. It's been a hot summer, folks. And he knew that. So he called an air conditioning contractor. As the air conditioning contractor talked to him about what he needed to do to improve his system, then he was told about the possibilities available, which would be the PACE financing program. Because I asked this individual, I said, why didn't you go get a home equity line of credit? Why didn't you get a second on your mortgage? And he said, well, you know what? After I looked into it, it seemed like the easiest way to go. It seemed pretty easy. On the average, PACE program interest rates, on the average, run 8.5 to 8.49, 8.5%, or 6.5 to 8.5%. That's the overall average of the program. There are some extremes to that, just like there are anything else. That is the average, which is higher than a second or a first. So the same individual that I talked to said, I did it, it worked out. They were very clear about what I was exposing myself to. They were very clear about what my payment requirements were. And not only that, but the follow-up information that I got laid it all out. He said I knew exactly what I needed to do. I had to start putting money away, so when that payment showed up, my property taxes, I would be prepared for. He did say later on after that he decided to go ahead and go through the motions and try to refinance his house to lower the interest rate on both his existing mortgage and on the PACE. And at that point in time, he learned that he could not refinance the PACE portion of that. So he did learn that. He is working other angles to try to reduce the amount of interest that he will pay in order to satisfy that loan. But he cannot make it a part of a refinancing. I have yet, in my search within our community, to find somebody who will tell me a horror story face-to-face about this. That individual said it was an option that was laid out for me. I made an informed decision. I have my air conditioner, and it's wonderfully cool, and I understand the financial implications. Like you heard the other members up here talk about, we as a city council were elected by the people of the city of Taft to see to the quality of life and the welfare of the people within the city of Taft. Unfortunate things happen in this program, I guarantee it. It didn't happen in the city of Taft, but there were unscrupulous contractors who took advantage of the process and victimized people. I don't doubt that, not for one damn minute. I know it happened. The legislative changes that are taking place recognize that, and they are trying to change it. Anybody who's familiar in any way, shape, or form with legislation know that you never fix everything the first time out. It has never happened in the history of the state of California legislature, and it never will. It is a process. Therefore, it is my proposal, recognizing the fact that, like we talked about, we represent the people of the city of Taft, that those that I talked to said it was an option for me. It was not crammed in my throat. It was an option that I chose to take advantage of. And I'm glad that option was available to me. I also recognize that there are changes taking place in these programs and in this process. I would propose that the City Council of the City of Taft table this issue for 6 months. During the course of that 6 months, with a heightened sense of awareness, we try to further reach out and communicate with the people within the city regarding these issues, as well as talk to our legislators and watch the process, which is AB 1284 and the other ones, and monitor this more closely. Also, we have got additional information provided us, and we would have a chance to look that over as well. That is my proposal at this time.
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
I have a second. Do I have any other discussion regarding that? Then, may we have a roll call, please, regarding that?
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Councilmember Cryer,
Yes.
Councilmember Bryant,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hill,
Yes.
and Mayor Nor.
Yes, and that passes on a 5-0 vote. I thank you very much.
Thank
I'm
you,
going
folks.
to give all you people an opportunity to leave since you're not interested in the rest of our agenda. Drive carefully, please. Now then, next up, item number 2, citizens request public comments. This is the time and place for the general public to address the city council on matters within its jurisdiction. State law prohibits the council from addressing any issue not previously included on the agenda. Council may receive comment and set the matter for a subsequent meeting. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. First up would be David Bosworth. I'm sorry you had to wait so long to address the council, but I appreciate you sticking around to address the council, David.
My name is David Bosworth. I live at 102 East Warren Street here in the fine city of Taft. So a couple months ago, I got really ticked off, and that had to do with the opportunity of a local couple guys wanting to produce cannabis in Taft. And throughout my life, I've explained this to the Planning Commission and now to you guys. And I'm outspoken in my personal life. I'm not a public speaker, so I'll try not to get too nervous and all that. But I'm a fourth generation Taftian. I've raised my children here, which is 5th generation. My great-grandmother crossed the great Americas on a covered wagon in the late 1800s to get to Taft. Why, I don't know, from Massachusetts. But when I see things like this that says, hey, let's introduce more criminal activity, and that's what I consider cannabis in general is criminal activity, a thing that is not good for our city, a thing that is not good for our culture, for our world. And so I took a stand. I've always taken a stand against drinking and drugs. I don't see any benefit. That's my personal stance. Other people agree or disagree to some variance. But when the state of California and other states have said, we want to make this a part of our America's culture by allowing sales and use of cannabis and cannabis-related drugs and things like that, it just broke my heart. And I've got a brother that lives in Colorado Springs, which we know Denver and northern Colorado are very heavily used in that. Got a couple friends on Facebook. I do Facebook because Dave doesn't, just to spite him, I guess. I don't know. But what's interesting is just going through some things in a group that I'm a part of. I saw some very interesting things about these really cool little jars of marijuana for sale for $20 for this little piece of whatever. And the comment the guy made was, it's really good stuff, but they tax the hell out of us on this. Wow, what are we talking about? Why, as we all know and you guys have talked about, the taxes have to go somewhere. The money goes somewhere. And, I think that's great. But what are you doing? These guys are, 20, 30, 40 years old, and their desire is to go get high. And in this area, if you want to get high, you don't work. Because Dave Nora, as owner of a business, is not going to hire you because you can't pass a drug test. Not because he's not a great guy, not because he's not a father, a great uncle. But what kind of I can't think of the word now, but we look at athletes and they're our heroes and our models. That's what I'm looking for, the models. We look at the NFL players and they get busted for drugs and rape and all this stuff. Our country is in decline. And I challenge our city council that we don't want that decline. I don't want that decline in my town, not in my town. I've talked a lot to Councilman Bryant about this on Facebook. But I'll talk face to face to any of you guys.
Thank you very much.
But what I've been attending the when I said I got mad because I can't deal with this. How do I fight this? How do I get informed, and how do I know? Start coming to the city council meetings, planning commission meetings, which I've done. You guys have seen me there. New face, you're going, hey, we got somebody that's interested in what our city's doing. Wow, we got a pretty empty crowd. So, but what I don't want is I don't want our city, as you guys are talking about PACE and these other things, is I'm going to stand up here and remind you this is a big deal. You know that, but there's a lot of other things going on. This is a big deal for me. It's a big deal for a lot of people. At the planning commission meeting a couple weeks ago, I started a Facebook group called Taft Against Cannabis. While that meeting was going on, I got about 20 people asking to join that group. Isn't that kind of interesting? Because I got up and spoke about that, and 88% of the people that got up to speak about cannabis at the planning commission meeting were against it in Taft. So as the planning commission makes their decisions and their proposals, what I'm asking, and they'll approve or disapprove or whatever they say, the final say, from my understanding, comes to the city council. So what I'm here to ask the city council is, when that comes up, whether it's absolutely say no, which is my stance. I don't want growth, and I don't want sales in the city of Taft. That's what you guys can control. Regardless of what the planning commission proposes, I'm asking the planning commission to say no. We will not allow sales or growth in the city of Taft. If the planning commission comes up and says, well, we think we want to do this, and it allows some sales or growth, I'm asking the city council member to lay your hand down and say, no, we do not want this scourge in our town. I used that word the other day, and I better go look that up, because what is it? Scourge is something we don't want in our life. It has negative impact on us. I've talked to almost all of you individually, and you guys, because I've known some of you for quite a while, but I don't want it. My wife's family has been destroyed by marijuana. Destroyed. They can't work. They can't function as humans. It's opened doors as a gateway drug to other things, to theft, to heavier drugs, drinking, alcoholism. They were taught that at a young age, from 10 and above. I don't want that in our city. I want it stomped out. I know it's near impossible. I know Chief Whiting deals with this on a daily, and his crew deals with this. I know you guys hear this, and some of you have been outspoken. So just in closing, I think I got 4.5 minutes. I was trying to use all my time. But I really, I don't see anybody else standing up here. I throw it out on Facebook. Everybody, yeah, I don't want this, or I do want this. There's nobody here to speak about it but me. So I urge you guys as a city council to say no. When it comes down to your agree, disagree, or your vote, that's my voice. I'll make it heard, and I'll repeat to make it heard until we get a final answer later this year. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, David, and thank you for being so patient to sit through an hour and a half of that other issue and still be here to talk to the City Council. We appreciate your time. Thank you, sir. Next up, Dr. Orrin of the Taft Chamber of Commerce. While she makes her way up here, I just want to let everybody know I've been doing a great deal of research on several of these issues, including the PACE program. And while I did that research, I saw endorsements and critiques from several different Latin American chambers and African American chambers and an Asian something chamber. And kudos to the City of Taft and Dr. Orrin and our chamber in that anybody and everybody is allowed at the Taft Chamber of Commerce. So
We
now
take
then,
everybody's money. Yes. Thank you. It's a pleasure to get to talk to you. I want to remind you that in the midst of all this, we have some fun times ahead in October. The golf tournament is October 14th, and we still have a few spaces open for teams. Our Galloween, our annual gala, will be at the new Transit Center. My lips to God's.
Why are you looking at the city manager for?
It's coming along famously, by the way.
It is.
I check on it at least twice a day for you.
I appreciate that.
Electricity isn't that important at a house.
No, Halloween, we don't. Who needs
You can't do it by the
electricity?
moonlight. What can you do by the moonlight?
Yes, yes. We can do many things under cover of darkness. It makes it more exciting at Halloween. But that is October 28th, and it is going to be fun, and it is going to be at the Transit Center. The next fun thing comes in November. That's our Trout Derby. That's November 18th. Closer to where we are right at this moment, tomorrow is Sit and Sip at 9 o'clock at the Chamber, and we will have two gentlemen who are aiming to establish a cannabis cultivation operation in Taft. And should Taft decide to permit such a thing, and they will be speaking with their consultant, and what will be kind of an open chance to ask them questions directly if you feel so inclined in a smaller setting. That will be tomorrow at the Chamber at 9 o'clock. We've ordered extra donuts just in case you're worried about not having a donut if you see a lot of cars there. So.
Cheeto flavor.
Anyway, we invite you to join us there, and of course for every Sit and Sip that we have on Wednesdays. And I'd like to acknowledge, lastly, the city for the way you handle us at the Chamber. We appreciate being included with you. You make sure that we know what's going on, and you have included us in making us smarter when it comes to the situations that we find ourselves in and the decision making that has to be done on the part of the Planning Commission and the City Council. And you have made available to us the chance to get information, and we appreciate that. We also appreciate on your consent calendar, lucky number 13, that comes up every once in a while, and we appreciate your consideration of that for us. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Warren. Okay, I do believe, unless somebody signed up on the back, I see none on the back. That's the first full sheet I believe I've experienced. I'll frame that. Next up, number 3, council statements, non-action. Mayor Pro Tem, I will begin with you this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no statements.
All right. Councilman Bryant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, with dubious distinction that I say I spent the end of last week, Wednesday, Thursday, and most of Friday in the armpit of the capital of California, Sacramento.
That's Freudian slip. Is that what that
Yes. I mean, beautiful, beautiful architecture, and I think I put this picture on Instagram. Is if the beauty, if the intellect of all those who occupy the offices inside matched the pristine beauty of the building itself, we'd be in a hell of a lot better place in the state of California. I'll be honest with that. No offense to the folks who represent us here, because I think they do a fine job. It's unfortunate they're outnumbered 5 or 10 to 1. But anyhow, it was a pleasure to get to meet with our state assemblyman, Mr. Vince Fong. Always good to chat about how things are coming down the pike as far as the state level and how they're going to impact us here at the city, and also to bounce ideas off of him from the state level and how those could, how he sees those impacting us. I was really disappointed overall in the quality of the discussion topics. There was a couple items where I thought, hey, this is nice, and one of the things I'll talk about in a moment was a great point, but it was very, very high level and not super informative and helpful. So I think hard and fast about going to one of those again. On the one positive note, I'm happy to say that the resolution that we supported passing and sending our urgency to the state to reconsider the after effects of Prop 4757, AB 109, it resoundingly passed with the dubious distinction of Emeryville dissenting. But overall, it passed with flying colors. So it's very obvious to me that the entire state, at least those folks representing us, or representing their respective cities in Sacramento, agree. So hopefully we can see some reprieve from that here in the very near future. I was able to obviously procure some gifts from all the folks there peddling their services, replenish the city's excess pen supply, because those were definitely not hard to find.
See that one?
I only regret I wouldn't have done more. Next time I'm going to get 2 bags and take the other bag to the chamber. So why not, right? But one of the gifts I found was really, really awesome, and I thought Dave would really like this. But I figured one the group was peddling OpenGov. Shameless plug for those guys. I really don't remember what they do besides making documents available, but I thought their giveaway was kind of cool, and I guess that's the gist of it, right? But something like this that really embodies everything that Sacramento means. Beauty on the outside and soft on the inside, right? So we could sit there and we're up here, complaining about the impact that the state's having on us from a legislative level. We can pass this thing around, squeeze the hell out of it, and realize, wish we were doing that to the legislators, just kicking us while we're down. So this will be the ceremonial squeeze me because the government's squeezing us here in the state of California.
Absolutely, you bet.
We'll pass that around, I guess, whenever we get frustrated. But one of the things I really hope that we'll consider further, and this is one of the things I really took away from the conference, was how do we impact our community for the long term? Obviously, here, we're going to do that through putting in legislation and ordinances and such like that we think are going to be beneficial to the city. But at the end of the day, who's going to inhabit the city? Our youth, our children, especially more near term, those who may be in high school or in college, and obviously our children, grandchildren down the road. So one thing I really am going to take a keen look at myself, and I would ask the city staff might do this somehow, and I would say don't take any action yet because I don't know exactly which ways I'd like to nudge you, but how we can get those kids involved, not necessarily in making decisions, but at least getting them exposed, getting their input, and knowing what we're doing and how it will impact them, and also getting their feedback on where they'd like to see the city steered. I think that'd be critically important to making sure that we engage those folks and we keep those folks here. Because at the end of the day, if you ask most any oil man, and I think Fred Holmes will tell you all the time, our biggest export out of here besides oil is kids. We don't like that. We want to see those kids coming back. We want to see those kids staying here. Because the reason I got on this council was I want my kids to call this place home. I want my grandkids to call this home. And I want everyone to be as prosperous as I'll get. So anyhow, I'm looking forward to getting the kids involved. If you're out there watching, which you're probably watching some other videos on YouTube and not this one, I want you, like Uncle Sam. You can call me Uncle Josh. I don't mind. But anyway, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thanks for going up there and representing the people of the city
got
of
it.
Taft, which those of you who are not absolutely certain, he went up there to let them all know in Sacramento that their passage and the lies they told to get the people to vote for those things is not working. Those are the victim-creatingest legislative pieces of crap that ever came out of Sacramento, and you are all falling victim to that ill-conceived legislation. So thank you for
You're
going
welcome.
up there and letting us.
My pleasure.
And letting our voices be heard. Councilman Miller.
Me? Oh. One thing I can only request the residents of at least Taft, and hopefully the whole of the west side, is just to stay positive. My recent column I wrote about if you didn't want to live in California, where would you go? If you didn't want to live in Taft, where would you move in Kern County? Where's a better community that you would move to that would be better than living here in Taft? Schools, college, Recreation Department, City of Taft, shopping, cleaner air. I always appreciate getting up in the heights and looking out when you can out over the valley. We're the only community that has a view like that. It's not appreciated. We've got scumbags in this town. But it's low crime rate. It's irritating more than anything. But we're a safe community. So there's the rails to trail. People are up and down that thing all the time. So we have a lot to brag about. But when you get on social media or write letters to the editor or you're interviewed by outlets that are outside the community, stay positive. Stay positive. If we're going to attract business or other, this cannabis deal is just another industry that we're looking at and considering. If you got a better idea, if you got some other industry that can come in and help replace the lost revenues that we're losing from the downturn of the oil industry, we're looking for it. It was suggested that we hire a economic director to do those things. Well, we've got a Chamber of Commerce, and our partnership with the Chamber is that we're hoping that they're always on the lookout because they got the eyes and ears, and they got a lot of people to contact. So, all I can again say, stay positive. I love Taft. I'm assuming if you live here, you love living here. Just be positive. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councilman Cryer.
Thank you, Mayor. I have to agree with Councilman Randy Miller on the fact that Taft has a lot to offer. When I go to different meetings, it's no secret I'm a member of the Arvin Lions in Arvin, and I brag about Taft every time because I like to get into them because they always get into me all the time. But we are the safest city, and then most of the people in Arvin Lion are superintendents of schools. They're the principals and all the other ones. And I tell them there's no crime because in Arvin, if you don't have a killing once in every 2 weeks, there's something wrong there. And there's a lot of murders going on and shootings and all kinds of weird things. And I tell them how safe our city is, and it's kind of wow, and they heard about it. And that's just not just Arvin. There's other areas here, but I do a lot of traveling. It's no secret. My work takes me out of the town quite a bit, and we have a really, really good active community. You can't be any more prouder in our little community. We're small, but yet it's safe. You can walk out at nighttime, feel safe. The ladies go out there on the railroad trails and feel safe. Yeah, we have a few homeless issues and stuff, but it's a whole lot better in other towns and cities and stuff. I can tell you that right now. Some examples. We have an American Legion in here. I encourage all our veterans join the American Legion. They can sure use the help. In the last couple of months, it's been growing. I encourage everybody to join them. And that's an activity they can do there. We have that. Some towns don't even have that. We have other fundraisers we're having for the Alpha House to keep that going for the battered women. And a lot of those people don't come from Taft. They come from other areas of Kern County. They bring them here to Taft because we have a nice facility, nice town, and safe, and women get themselves mended with their issues. They are going to have a fundraiser. They're going to be buying Hodell's cinnamon rolls for $10 at the Calvary House on I believe 630 Kern Street this Thursday. I encourage people to go out there and buy some Hodell cinnamon rolls and help the Alpha House. There's just some of the things that we have here that our town here supports and appreciates. Other deal is that we have an ARC coming up here. The Moose Lodge is hosting the ARC Festival, and it'll be this Friday. Go out there and enjoy it. Go out there and see it and be a fundraiser. There's things that are happening here, and enjoy it. The Fox Theater, every Tuesday, they have a $5 a seat tickets to watch any movie you want on that day. $5, that's pretty darn cheap. But it's a good.
It's damn cheap.
Okay. But anyway, it's a good venue to go to and support our town and have a good time, and meet with friends and stuff and talk about issues that's coming up for the city. I again agree, that our kids need to stay here and grow up here, but they go to college and stuff, they find other issues, but hopefully they'll come back to our fair city. But bring new people in this town, to bring new blood, new money in here, bring a circulation and stuff. That makes a business grow, is new money coming in here to recirculate. That's just some of the things that I look at, and I tell you what, I'm proud of our little city here. I'm proud of our city, people that work in the city, our city manager, our police chief, with his officers and stuff, to keep this place safe and for us to keep going. We have a really good town, and I'm proud of it, and thank you.
You bet.
Amen.
All very positive. I will tell you that at one point in time, many years ago, my company had its yard outside the city limits. We were in Kern County, and we spent a great deal of effort and money to bring our yard and our business in to the city of Taft. And in doing so, we comply with every single law and restriction. Although the community knows these people as government in the city of Taft, Randy did not write the Endangered Species Act. Josh did not write the Federal Clean Waters Act. And so forth and so on. I think you were responsible for the Americans with Disabilities Act, weren't you? What I'm trying to get across to everybody there is we as a city, we as citizens have to comply with a cornucopia of rules and laws that do not come from this dais, in spite of all the credit that we get for those things. And I did it, and we did it in my company, and came into this city, and we have never looked back. We're as happy as we can be at Black Gold Court, and I raised my kids in this community as well. I'm very proud of them. I'm proud to have done so. And we continue to live here, not because we have to, because we choose to. So thank you all for that. Moving forward then. Next up, Planning Commission report. Do we have a Planning Commission report this evening? All right.
All right.
Here.
Da-dum, da-dum.
Hi. Susan Banner, 414 Palm Street, Taft. Good evening, Mayor Knorr, Mayor Pro Tem Hill, and councilmen. Our September 6th meeting, we reinstated Shannon Jones and for another term. And in doing so, we changed our meeting times to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. As a lot of you may know, she's been accepted to
law school.
Yeah. Law school. And so for her to continue in the board itself felt she was an asset. So we decided to change our time.
Did you guys also move, sorry, Susan, to the first Wednesday of the month, not the third?
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Correct. And also the big thing for the evening, the main topic was Proposition 64. We had 9 people come up and speak, and out of that, the 9 people, 8 were against it. As you know, we're reviewing it, trying to educate ourselves on the pros and cons to having a retail facility selling cannabis, as well as a company manufacturing growing facility here. Again, we're educating ourselves and trying to come up with what our job as yours for our community, what our community wants. And then we adjourned our meeting. How's that?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Exceptional for your first opportunity to do. Thank you for that report.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you for
serving.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, department reports. Do we have any department reports this evening? Seeing none? City manager statements. City Manager Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to point out that we are going to plan to have the 17th council meeting at the new transit center.
Nice.
We too may be in the dark and without sound.
That won't hurt anybody's feelings.
My gosh, we'll be just like the Capitol then, won't we? Huh?
Emptiness.
No, we have generators, so if that has to happen, we can make that happen. And then we are planning to have a Veterans Day celebration on Saturday, November 11th at 10 a.m.
Awesome.
We're putting together hopefully some guest speakers and some kind of program and maybe some snacks or food or something. So I hope everyone can join us. That will be on a Saturday. So I just wanted to point that out. By the way, the transit center is looking good. I was up there twice today looking at some changes that were necessary, trying to save money where we can, but that don't always happen. But it's turning out nice. So
beautiful.
It's moving very, very rapidly at the finishing stages. So if anyone gets a chance, drive by and take a look. And just hopeful that we'll have some. Randy came by there today asking about the clock, so
it's going to be there.
We're hopeful for a clock. So I know there's good news on the rise about that. So we'll wait on that, and that's all I have tonight.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
City Attorney statements, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No statement.
All right. Future agenda requests. Council members, do we have any future agenda requests this evening?
I have nothing today.
None? All right, then. We'll move forward. Okay. The always popular consent calendar. Consent calendar items 9 through 13. All items listed on the consent calendar shall be considered routine and will be enacted by one roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the City Council requests specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Any item removed from the consent calendar will be considered after the regular business items. Are there any items on the consent calendar that any member of the public would like to comment on? No, seeing none. The items are, number 9 would be the minutes of the September 5th, 2017 regular meeting. Number 10 would be the payment of bills, about $790,000 worth. Number 11, authorization of sale of 725 San Emilio Street to Taft Union High School. That recommendation would be a motion to adopt a resolution entitled A Resolution of the City Council of the City of Taft authorizing the sale of property located at 725 San Emilio Street, Taft, California to Taft Union High School for $62,000 and authorizing the mayor, city manager, and/or assistant city manager to execute all escrow and other documents necessary to complete the sale of real property and making certain findings in connection therewith. Item number 12 would be the employee discipline and standards of employee conduct policies for Taft Modified Community Correctional Facility. That recommendation would be a motion to adopt a resolution entitled Resolution of the City Council of the City of Taft approving the employee discipline and standards of employee conduct policies as sections P-3.23 and P-3.24 of the Personnel Policies and Procedures Manual of the Taft Modified Community Correctional Facility. And then finally, item number 13, or as we call it, Kathy's item. Item number 13 would be the funding to the Taft Chamber of Commerce for the quarter of April 2017 to June 2017. That recommendation is a motion to approve 25% allocation of the transient occupancy tax to the Taft Chamber of Commerce for the quarter of April 2017 through June 2017, a little over $12,000, if I recall correctly. So, at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar, items 9 through 13.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do you need to?
I will abstain from item 11. I'd like to abstain from item 11 if everyone will be all right with it. That's fine.
Okay, so we do have a motion
I got a
and
motion in on this side.
yeah, you did. You guys were quick. Congratulations. You guys are really you're cutting the light in drag racing terms.
Awfully spry.
Who had the second?
Who had the second?
There.
Orchel.
Orso had the second. I'm going to give it to Orso.
All right.
So we have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Miller?
Yes.
Councilmember Cryer?
Yes.
Councilmember Bryant?
Yes, with an abstention on number 11.
Mayor Pro Tem Hill?
Yes.
And Mayor Knorr.
Yes, and that approves on a 5-0 vote. Thank you very much. That concludes our regular session for this evening. The City Council will be going into closed session for item A, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Government Code Section 54956.9A, Taft Union High School versus the City of Taft. Item B, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Government Code Section 54956.9A, case number BCV-17-101-990. Item C, conference with labor negotiator Craig Jones, City Manager, Government Code 54957.6, all units. And D, conference with real property negotiator Craig Jones, City Manager, Government Code Section 54956.8, 410 Supply Row, Taft, California 93268.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to abstain from item A during closed session.
All right, so noted.
We'll move that to D, and you can go home early.
All right, very good. Thank you all for being here.
Talking to those folks.